Rule number one when you're disarming Betty: you don't step on her. Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming your way for another one of my famed movie/Blu-ray reviews. Today I will be reviewing the movie in the most recent Blu-ray release by Kino Lorber of Blown Away. So my history with Blown Away goes all the way back to the release year, 30 years ago, 1994. I'm pretty sure I would have seen this trailer. I don't know if I would have seen it in the theaters or not. Incidentally, the trailer is actually really cool for this movie. In a lot of ways, maybe it's a little cooler than the movie is, but the trailer was really cool. It wasn't cool enough to get me into the theater to see Blown Away, because I guess I ended up seeing, like, in the drive-in, ended up seeing, I think it was a double bill. I know it was a double bill. I'm pretty sure True Lies would have been first. True Lies and Speed. You know, there was at least two movies that dealt with explosions and this and that, and bombs and the threat of explosions and this and that in the summer of '94, and of course it was Speed and this movie Blown Away. Maybe there were other ones that I didn't, know about or whatever, but yeah, I didn't get to the theater to see this. I kind of wish in retrospect I would have, but this is a title that I'd end up seeing for the first time on home video, and this is '94, so this is when I had a Laserdisc player, so I don't think I ever bothered with the VHS of this title. I would have rented and then subsequently ended up buying the Laserdisc of Blown Away, and then I'd end up with the DVD years later. And Kino Lorber did put out a Blu-ray of Blown Away. I think it was like 2015 or something along those lines, somewhere around those lines. It ended up going out of print, and luckily I'm glad they put it out again in a what they're calling a brand new HD master from a 4K scan of the 35mm original camera negatives. So I missed out on the first Kino Lorber Blu-ray release, and over the years I kind of contemplated buying it on eBay, but I'm glad I didn't, because they put out this even better version, and they did put out a 4K disc along with it as well if you're in the 4K arena, which I am not. So I'm really glad that they put out this version, and I can't compare it obviously to the original Blu-ray, but one thing I can say, if I can tease the Blu-ray review a little bit, oh man, it's one hell of a Blu-ray release, that's for darn sure. But anyway, Blown Away, if you're not familiar with this title, is big, huge, in summer 1994, Jeff Bridges and, what the hell's his name? Tommy Lee Jones movie. Just, I wouldn't call it action per se, it's like, more like almost suspense action, I don't know if like I say, compared to True Lies and Speed, I don't think you really necessarily even call it action. It's more like, oh, is a bomb going to explode? Thing. I guess the thing at the chase scene kind of at the very end is maybe a little bit action-y or whatever, but it's just like a big 1994 summer tentpole kind of Jeff Bridges, Tommy Lee Jones kind of movie, whatever. And if you don't know anything about the plot, I'll briefly say that Tommy Lee Jones plays this, and I'm pretty sure, I didn't look up, I meant to look up Tommy Lee Jones, like, place of birth, but I'm pretty sure, did he grow up in the South in the United States of America? Like, he might have very well been like a southern guy who was born and raised in the south of, North America, or south of North America. But I think it's funny, if that's the case, it's pretty funny that, they got Tommy Lee Jones playing an Irishman, because if he was born in the South, which he very well might have been, he's definitely got that born in the South physical appearance. If you haven't noticed yourself, I mean, a lot of people from different regions have facial features that kind of resemble those regions and things that are more akin to those regions, and there can be like a southern United States, U.S. of A., United States of America, a southern kind of a country boy look, or Texas look, or whatever, just southern look. I probably have the northern look. Actually, I don't know what the hell look I've got, but that's another video. But yeah, so Tommy Lee Jones and Jeff Bridges play Irishmen in this movie, which is kind of funny. Jeff Bridges doesn't have to bother with the Irish accent. He just has to bother with the Boston accent, which incidentally, I've said it before on this video, on this channel, that I'm not a big fan of the Boston accent. So luckily Jeff Bridges keeps it kind of toned down. and isn't too Boston-y or whatever. But oh, another thing I should mention is Jeff Bridges' dad, Lloyd Bridges, is also in this movie. He doesn't play his dad, I don't think, but kind of a father-ish figure as well, who's also from Ireland. So Lloyd Bridges has to do the Irish accent. It's so funny because this movie's got two accents which I'm not very keen on, which is the Irish accent and the Boston accent, and it's just like, if you can get past those accents, maybe you'll have fun with this movie. But anyway, the movie starts with, and I can only assume this is a real prison. If so, it's kind of ridiculous, but there's a lot of ridiculous things in this world. But it begins in Ireland at this Castle Glay prison, which is like a prison that's made out of, that's made in the shape of a cross lying on the ground. And I could pretty much tell this before, but I can really tell this with the new Blu-ray that the castle that maybe this is manufactured for the movie, I don't know, but whatever they're photographing in the movie to be the prison is clearly a model, and you can really see it in the Blu-ray. You can even see, like, I don't know if it was so big that they actually used a helicopter to go over the model, because when the camera's over the model on the Blu-ray, you can see like what's supposed to be the grass kind of just all fluttering like it's just green fabric or whatever. So to me, the prison was clearly a model in the DVD, Laserdisc and DVD, but with the brightness of the Blu-ray, oh my God, it completely gives the fact away that this prison in the shape of a cross lying on the ground is definitely a model. But Tommy Lee Jones at the very beginning, he's an Irishman who wants obviously the ongoing, decades ongoing feud between Irish and British. He wants the Brits out of Ireland or whatever. He's one of these, I'm not saying one thing about it either way. I don't really take a side to that situation. I don't know enough about it to take a side. But if I were to take a side, I'd probably no, I'm not going to take a side. But anyway, there's this ongoing feud over the decades between, Irish and Brits or whatever, regarding Brits being in Ireland or whatever, and he's on the Irish side of that, of course, and he's this, this bomb extraordinaire who can make bombs out of Bisquick, and blows his way out of prison at the beginning of the movie. And what's so funny about it is he blows a hole in the prison wall, and he just exits through the prison wall, and then that's it. They fade to, Boston and Jeff Bridges, and it's like, okay, well, they at the beginning of the movie, they establish that he's on this, it looks like almost like an island, but it's probably a peninsula of Ireland or something by the ocean. It's like, okay, he blows a hole through the prison wall and walks through the hole, but like, how does he get, then what? How does he get... It's just kind of funny. But movies, just like, if they don't want to bother with details, they won't. You're supposed to not think about it. And honestly, probably when I was younger, I probably didn't think about it. But being older now, pushing 50, it's like, yeah, so they kind of conveniently fade out, and we don't know how the hell he got to America, but whatever. I'm not going to do a beat by beat, but then we introduce, of course, Jeff Bridges in Boston, and he's a slick guy who works at the Boston bomb disposal, and he's in a relationship with Susie Amos, just 3 years before she'd go on to be in Titanic, and I don't know, I would imagine sometime around that became James Cameron's, probably final, love interest or whatever. And yeah, she's a little thin. She's a little thin in this movie for my taste, but that's just me. I mean, she's not horrible to look at. I mean, whatever. But anyway, we can only assume that Susie, Amos' character, has this daughter from a previous marriage or no marriage or whatever, daughter from her previous guy, and it's a birthday party, and you can clearly tell, and I knew this even back like in 94, 95, whenever I would have first saw it on video, that this birthday party, like the stuff that takes place in the backyard of Susie Amos's place, is clearly like indoor set. Like the lighting is clearly artificial, like light that's supposed to be outdoor sunlight and stuff. So that's kind of distracting for us people who know about things like that. But we introduced Jeff Bridges' character in a fun, little kid's birthday party way. Pin the tail on the donkey's nose and all this and that, and he gets Paige to do this scary. I said I'm not gonna do a beat by beat, I swear. But anyway, to make a long story or a long review not as long, he's a Boston bomb squad, just whiz bang guy who can solve pretty much any problems. And the reason why he's this Boston bomb squad, guy who's so good at it is because when he was young, he was recruited in Ireland. He was recruited by Tommy Lee Jones to to fight for the cause or his cause or whatever, and became, I guess maybe Tommy Lee Jones taught him his bomb craft or whatever. So he's got experience with bomb making and presumably bomb disarming and just bombs in general. So he's a good guy to work for the Boston Bomb Disposal and go through the paces of introducing his, the people he works with. And this one guy is obsessed with this, robot on tank tracks with the arm that never fucking works at all, and when the guy says it does, we never see it work. So these things obviously exist for real, and they just put them in the movie as whatever, like, see, your taxpayer dollars are not being wasted. This robot that can't do anything only costs $5 million. But premise is, once Tommy Lee Jones' character breaks out of the cross-shaped prison that's on the frickin' looks like an island or a peninsula on Ireland, and just with we have no idea how he makes it to Boston, but he does it. He's at a bar buying women drinks and this and that, and he ends up seeing James Dove is the name of who Jeff Bridges' character, the new name of the Jeff Bridges character, because his real name is Liam McGivney or something like that, from Ireland, and but his American new name is James Dove, and Dove, and there's a line where he's like, Dove, James Dove, which is kind of cool. It's like a year before GoldenEye came out, the first Pierce Brosnan James Bond movie. They probably knew, like, MGM probably knew that they were probably working on it or whatever, and maybe they put that in there as kind of a wink to, like, okay, a year later we're going to get Pierce Brosnan in his first James Bond movie, and the first James Bond movie since the fall of the Berlin Wall. But anyway, yeah, so once Tommy Lee Jones gets a whiff of, Liam McGivney, aka James Dove, being in Boston and working for the Boston bomb disposal. See, what ended up happening is because of I'll just say Jeff Bridges. It makes it easier. Jeff Bridges had a conscience when they had way back when, 25 years ago or so, in Ireland, when they were going to blow something up. James, what's his name? Jeff Bridges had a conscience, and he tried to stop Tommy Lee Jones from blowing something up, and it actually screwed up, and it made the bomb go off sooner than it was supposed to, and it blew up people up. Jeff Bridges' sweetheart, which was Tommy Lee Jones' character's sister, and maybe some other people that were part of their faction or whatever, and I don't know how the hell, I don't think they really explained how Jeff Bridges got away, but Tommy Lee Jones' character got captured and put in prison, and spent the last of his, the last, was it 25 years since then, in prison. I don't know why it took him 25 years to break out. Like, if he could just do what he did at the beginning of this movie, why didn't he do it the day after he was put in prison? There's a lot of stuff they don't explain, and you're just not supposed to think about it. And to be fair, I never did and think about a lot of this stuff until either recently or right now on this video. Basically, to make a long review not as long, Tommy Lee Jones has a grudge against Jeff Bridges, and once he finds out that Jeff Bridges is in the same vicinity he's in, he's going to start to take out members of his, I guess we can just call them, bomb disposal team, kind of like Jeff Bridges accidentally took out the team of the rebels that Tommy Lee Jones was commanding and Jeff Bridges was recruited under. So, and then we just follow a series of, some, obviously Tommy Lee Jones is bombing the hell out of the Boston bomb squad for a while there, and some of these, whatever, explosion scenes or whatever. And one thing I don't understand is the first of which is this: there's a bomb under a bridge, and the guy's going to use a shotgun to blow up the bomb. Like, that's how we defuse a bomb? We blow it up? Like, call me dense, but I don't understand, how, you're going to pay the Boston bomb squad all this money to blow up a bomb to get rid of it. Like, I don't know. Doesn't that damage the bridge, or ruin the safety of the bridge? To blow, like, why do we? Anyway, I guess if they figure a bomb isn't big enough to do enough damage, they blow it up to diffuse the situation. But anyway, that's the first guy to go, and then two others go another way in a more extravagant explosion. Which, incidentally, before this movie came out, I did see a bit of the making of that one bit where the bomb goes off in the back of the van, and the van tips over, and Jeff Bridges is like, oh, like there was this little bit of news blurb or something where it's like, yeah, Jeff Bridges' near-death experience on the filming of his latest movie, and blown away. Jeff Bridges almost gets blown away, and it was an exciting scene from Blown Away. I remember something like that, maybe it was 93 or early 94 or something, but a little blurb where it's like they didn't because there is there is a shot where Jeff Bridges is kind of running towards the van, and the explosion shoots out, and in the movie there's still like using long lenses or whatever, you can see the Jeff Bridges in the background and the explosion out of the van kind of covering up in the foreground and stuff. So the first whiff I ever got of this movie was, and I think for some reason I actually had it recorded off TV on the tape. I don't know. I must have been recording something else, or whatever, and then this thing came on. But that was my first whiff of, anything about this movie, which kind of did its job and got me excited or interested to kind of see the movie and see the scene. Like, ooh, the scene that Jeff Bridges, of course they sensationalize everything, and Jeff Bridges nearly got killed on or whatever. But yeah, working with explosives is dangerous, and I wouldn't be for it. But I can only assume, I should have researched this before I did the video, but I can only assume this came out before 4th of July, somewhere in 1994. And incidentally, the Blu-ray came out, I can't remember, I think it was just days, but was it late June this year? This recent Blu-ray. I want to say it came out just before 4th of July possibly, but I don't know if I mentioned it, but I've been known to watch the DVD I had of this before I got the Blu-ray. Years past, I've been known to watch it on the 4th. I think me and Beth watched this on a 4th of July in one of the past several years or whatever, the DVD version. But that still worked okay, and the projector on the wall with the 5.1 sound. The sound was still, really good, even if the image wasn't that amazing on the projector and the 5.1 surround. But yeah, as always can be the case, I'm kind of all over the place. But that's the basic gist of the movie. Just Tommy Lee Jones wants to get revenge on Jeff Bridges for basically killing his sister and maybe other people of his, whatever, his little faction or his group or whatever, his bombing buddies or whatever, and the drama and stuff that ensues. And I will say, like, it is kind of a depressing movie. It's seeing like seeing his people, the Boston bomb people, his buddies be blown away, and then someone even more near and dear, I won't ruin it, gets blown away, and it's just like, this is summer, like if you compare this to Speed, which is more fun or whatever, this is like almost, kind of depressing and stuff. It's cool. It's interesting because, I watched this movie this Blu-ray 3 times since I got it before I reviewed it. I did it once on the TV. Then, of course, I mean, it's blown away. DTS 5.1, you got to do it on the projector on the 5.1 surround system. And then actually last night I just let's watch it again on the TV just to just so I know really really clearly how good the the image looks, which I'll get to in a minute. But I think that's more or less what I'll say about the movie. Like I watched it 3 times in the last couple weeks or whatever. So it's like 2 hours long. It's really competently done, and it's even though it can be depressing, there's still a lot of fun stuff. You've got Forrest Whitaker in it with his old lazy eyelid or whatever, and I think this is the first movie I'd seen Forrest Whitaker in, and at the time I thought he was like I thought he was new on the scene, and we'll cut to years later or whatever, seeing Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I mean, he was in that movie in the early 80s, so it's like this is hardly Forrest Whitaker's first movie or anything, but it was the first movie I'd ever seen him in, I think. And his character is kind of interesting, which kind of has a little bit of a character arc in a way and stuff. And if you're a fan of, if you're a fan of this kind of movie, the old suspenseful bomb disarming genre, I would imagine you probably already would have seen this. But if not, definitely give this, a view, because it's, as depressing as it can be, the whole thing is hardly depressing or whatever. There's a beautiful, Irish wedding, and I think this is the time in history where, like, the mid '90s was remember I don't know if you're younger than I, you won't, but back in the '90s, because I was working at Suncoast at the time this movie came out, and I remember, the Lord of the Dance was like a big thing, I think, back in the mid '90s, and I think we sold VHS tapes of the Lord of the Dance and all this crap. Was it Irish dancing guys in skirts and stuff? There's always this shot in this movie at the wedding where this guy starts, in a skirt, starts doing his Lord of the Dance shit, and I always checking out the legs, and then it pans up and it's like, oh fuck, it's a guy. I was looking at the guy's legs. But anyway, I think Lord of the Dance, I hate when that happens. Lord of the Dance, I think, was kind of a big thing around this same time or whatever, and it's just like, okay, Irish guys in skirts doing the little dancey thing or whatever. And what's so funny is that, Jeff Bridges proposes to Susie Amos in kind of a bummy, kind of a just working class way, which is, I'll give the movie credit for being kind of a lame proposal. It's like, come on, take this thing, they need the table. take the ring, let's get out of here, they need the table. Take it, you're gonna make me look like an idiot here. But, and it makes it look like the next day the wedding is or something, but I think it's supposed to be a progression of time. They don't make that clear or whatever, but yeah, so the whole thing's not depressing, but it does get, depressing, seeing all these people die. And I will say that the first guy who's a part of the Boston Bomb Squad, the big fun group of, the co-workers of Jeff Bridges, the first guy who dies and they show his corpse in the body bag, oh my god, it looks like, I hope that didn't kill the guy for real, because his dead body looks so, I hesitate to use the word good, but realistic. Like, oh my god, it looks like a real dead body. Like, they show his face and it's just like, his eyes are open and it's just like, and it's like, is it the actor doing that, or is it a fake head, like, or is they kill him for real? Like, that's one thing I will say about this movie. One of the most realistic dead body faces in a movie. That's just like, holy shit. Like, you kind of, oh god. So that because normally it's just like, the eyes closed, mouth closed, just there is a dead body. But that was like a realistic dead body face, and it was just like, whoa, mama. And I did think the scene later on where it's like at the guy's funeral, where all the guys are watching a baseball game or I don't know if it's the funeral, but whatever you call it after the funeral, the funeral party, I don't know what it's called. I'm not a funeral enthusiast, but the reception after the funeral, everyone's just gathering around watching baseball, and it's just like, is that disrespectful? I don't know, probably, but what are you supposed to do? I don't know, but anyway, yeah, one thing I do like about this movie is, it is kind of like the hero, the Jeff Bridges character, is kind of like, even though he's a Superman or what he does or whatever, it's still very much like kind of a working class, kind of a summer action movie where, unlike Schwarzenegger in True Lies, like, Jeff Bridges is just a blue collar kind of a character, and that's kind of cool. Same thing with like Keanu Reeves in Speed. He's a LAPD big shot or whatever. So one thing that's kind of cool about this movie is the hero, Jeff Bridges, is kind of a just a blue collar kind of a bum or whatever, and it's evidenced in the way he proposes to his woman. And what does she do? Oh, she plays the violin for some orchestra. Like, she's able to afford her house based on playing violin a few times a month. Like, yeah, whatever. She's got this, I don't know what, this super duper looking place that all these characters will oftentimes have in movies, that completely not realistic for whatever, but you want to film a movie in a nice setting or whatever. But yeah, as much as I do kind of complain about this movie and do say that it does get depressing, I mean, the depressing aspects aren't, I guess, don't make up for that, big a proportionate of a movie or of the movie. But, having seen this, I mean, you can probably tell, because I've seen it, 3 times in the last, I don't know, 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks since I got the Blu-ray. Like, you can probably tell, like, that doesn't happen if you dislike a movie. So I actually do enjoy this movie, and it's a fun, kind of a trip down memory lane from my, teen years, and, just having, just recently having gotten, around the time of before this would have come out on Laserdisc, recently got a Laserdisc player, so I got to experience it in, widescreen. Although this is one of those movies, kind of like the James Cameron likes to shoot in the Super 35mm, where on the full frame it actually you see more on the top and bottom, so you don't cut off as much on the sides as you would if it was the normal, Panavision whatever kind of stuff John Carpenter shoots in. But so I don't think I ever officially really saw the entire full screen version. Like, it's not as bad of a crop job as if it were, whatever, the normal crop of a wide kind of Panavision movie or whatever. I can probably go as high as, I mean, I watched it 3 times in the last 2 weeks or something, or 2.5 to 3 weeks. I can probably go as high as 3.5 stars out of 4 stars for Blown Away. It's probably, like, it just, I don't know, I guess it makes me think of 30 years ago, a better time, my teen years and stuff, Laserdisc player, just, being a movie enthusiast in the mid-90s, when right before, in my opinion, movies kind of went to shit like that. I don't think there's really necessarily any CG in this movie kind of a thing. And there's a really shitty optical where they put the explosion, and last night when I watched it, I played it back. I'm like, okay, so there's an explosion in the window, and then we cut to the actual explosion that he's seeing, and then we cut to the reflecting out of his eyes. And all 3 times, the 2 of them are a reflection and 1 isn't a reflection. They're all 3 the same image. Like, the reflection should be a mirrored image, and the non-reflection should be the opposite. Just a little detail that the visual effects house didn't bother with back in the day. But you can tell because of one of the explosions is higher on this end than the other, and there's 2 reflections and 1 non-reflection, and it's the same height on the one side on all 3, and it's like, give me a break. And you can see in the trailer, you can see that pullback or whatever from the eye and of both eyes with no explosion in it, but in the movie they put the explosion in his eyes, and it's kind of like, give me a break. So I mean, it's 94, you got to give them a break. But what I was saying is, like, right around the time when CG was really starting to take over, this was like one of the last big, huge, like, I don't think there's necessarily CG in Speed either, or True Lies or anything. So I mean, this is like, what I'm trying to say is, these are some, like, this is like some of the last big, huge summer action movies without all this CG just shoved in your face kind of a thing. And before movies, in my opinion, kind of the last half of the 90s started to get maybe a little less enjoyable, and the beginning of the deterioration of movies, in my opinion, kind of a thing. So I guess that'll be my review of Blown Away. It's a fun movie, and even if you gotta sit through some U2 songs and stuff, U-Who? Well, I've been out to the mainstream, bet you know. But yeah, there's some U2 you might have to suffer through. But other than that, oh yeah, and the big huge. Well, before I end the review, obviously I meant to talk about this a lot sooner. Obviously, in 4th of July in the United States of America, we have this pastime. You might have seen my live stream that I did. If not, you can still check out the replay of my live stream from 4th of July 2024, where I just sat right here as it got towards dusk in the night, and to hear all the explosions and stuff. In this country, in the 4th of July, it's 4th of July is credited as this country's birthday. And to celebrate it, we just throw off and light off explosions and stuff that simulate war. And obviously, this kind of a bomb explosion movie is perfect for 4th of July. Oh, I don't think I ever really said it. The movie takes place and ends on 4th of July, and Susie Amos is a violinist in this orchestra that's playing for the 4th of July fireworks and all this kind of stuff. So, it's very much like a 4th of July summer tentpole action movie kind of a thing, and how fitting to have a 4th of July kind of movie with explosions. And the grand finale, of course, of the explosions is this old, huge, really big ship just rusting on a pier, which I wouldn't even be surprised if they wrote the whole movie around this boat. Like, you want to blow up this boat and write a movie around it? Okay. And obviously it's Tommy Lee Jones' hideout, and how he gets electricity and telephone service on this rusted old boat, we'll never know. But it's his hideout, and he rigs this whole thing to blow at the very end, and hoping, I'm assuming he didn't expect to be in it, but maybe he planned to be in it when it blew, just to end his life or whatever. Maybe it was supposed to blow him and Jeff Bridges both up at the same time, but it's the big, huge, like, finale explosion of the movie. And I gotta say, every time I watch it, it's a big, you know, it's a bunch of explosions, and they just blow this big old ship up for real. Like I say, before CG, and what's great about this scene is, you know, it's all real. But what I was gonna say is, you know, you got these two doubles doubling for Jeff Bridges and Forrest Whitaker that are running and limping towards, you know, down the dock away from the explosion ship, and they're supposed to jump off the dock into the water right at the, you know, climactic final explosions and stuff. And I'm just like, God, good thing one of them didn't trip, because there's no take two on this son of a bitch, you know, that's for damn sure. And so you got to give it to them for these stuntmen for not tripping or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's why I give it 3.5 stars, because it's just like one of the last, like, big, huge, like, summer action movies, you know, without a significant amount. I mean, there's visual effects and stuff, obviously, but it's like, you know, no, like, blatant CGI stuff in your face kind of a stuff. And the very, very end of, you know, kind of more or less the analog, big blockbuster film era, and it's just like, you know, it's got a special place in my heart for that reason, you know. Blown away. Now on to my review of the most recently released Blu-ray by Kino Lorber of Blown Away. I already read you and showed you the bit about the new HD master. Other special features include audio commentary with director Stephen Hawkins, which actually might be worth listening to. That sounds kind of cool. I don't know if he would have done that for the first Blu-ray or what. Audio commentary by action film historians Mike Leader, and these names, I tell you, it never fails. The Making of Blown Away, A Day in the Life of the Bomb Squad. I think that's a making of from back when the movie was actually being, you know, produced and promoted in '94. Take Me Home music video, you can forget about that. Like the music in the closing credits is so pansy ass. If that's that song, which it probably is, you can forget about that. Theatrical trailer and TV spots. Yeah, I gotta tell you, watching it last night, like, oh my God, like, that's one thing that I found really weird about this. But, like, I'd rather listen to U2 than that song in the closing credits. Oh my God. It's like this, overly sentimental, just like, oh, just cringe-inducing garbage. But anyway, if you want to see the music video, presumably that song, it's on the Blu-ray. But one thing I can't stress enough, and unlike my review I did of the recently released Kino Lorber Blu-ray release of Leviathan, which I was actually more or less kind of disappointed in as far as visually, and I did end up putting that on the wall and listened to a little bit of the 5.1 of Leviathan, and the sound is like, the 5.1 is horrid. It's one of those things where it's kind of like they just 5.1-ize the Dolby Surround 2-channel. It is like, so it's too bad I didn't do that before I reviewed Leviathan. But if you're interested in hearing more about my review of the Blu-ray Leviathan, the 5.1 is garbage on that, and the image isn't probably as bad as the 5.1, but it leaves a little bit to be desired as well. But I just wanted to mention that, because this is a stark contrast and visually to that. Like the image on this Blu-ray, like initially when I first saw it, and the best version I ever had this on was DVD. When I put this Blu-ray in, I was like, oh my God, like I knew that castle was a model, but oh my God, it's like so bright that it's like, it's probably brighter than it's actually intended to be, because it's like, oh my God, you can really tell it's a model. But they probably set it up next to a real ocean or whatever, which actually makes it look better. But I can only assume that, I don't know if it's big enough where they used a real helicopter to go over it, but like I say, you can see the fake grass like blow when the camera's like right above it. So I don't know what the deal is, but it's definitely a model. But oh my God, like the stuff in the prison, you know, with Tommy Lee Jones and his partner that he kills or whatever at the beginning, is like it's so bright. It's just like, wow. And the sharpness is so sharp, and the colors are just so freaking colorful. Like it's almost, you know, it's hard. It's kind of what I said about the more recent 4K version of Friday the 13th that's on the Scream Factory Blu-ray box set. Like it's almost too good. It looks almost too good, and it's just like this is a really really stellar Blu-ray presentation, and I can only assume that the 4K disc is even better. I mean, obviously, but this Blu-ray presentation of this movie, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I got this. And this might be one of the most stark differences in transfers that I can remember ever seeing. Like, it was just shockingly bright. And like I say, I don't know if if Stephen, what the hell's his name? Stephen, is it Hopkins? Yeah, I don't know if he would have signed off on this Blu-ray scan, because it almost seems like it's too bright. You know, and some of that dark scenes and stuff. But it's kind of reminds me of way back in the early 90s when they did the second film-to-tape transfer of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because up until, like, I think that was like for its, what would that have been, 80, 90, that would have been its 20th anniversary or something like that, around like 93, 94ish. I think this came, the VHS MPI of VHS of the restored Texas Chainsaw came out in 93. But this transfer is akin to that, like getting so bright, you know, in the dark scenes and stuff. It's like, you know, but it's just other, I mean, it's just stellar all across the board. Like the sharpness, the colors, I cannot even express how amazing this new 4K scan of the original camera negative of Blown Away looks. Absolutely stupendous. And yes, obviously this is one of the big, huge, at the time, you know, DTS Digital Sound Summer Tentpole Blockbuster releases of 94, a year after Jurassic Park. So obviously I had to put it on the wall on the projector in the 5.1 DTS surround, and yeah, obviously it sounds great. It didn't blow me away per se, but, and I don't know if it was on the movie. It very well might have been in certain scenes on the movie. I don't think it was all the way through, because I paused it a couple times. But it was almost like sometime, and this might just be inherent in the original audio, who knows, but one thing I will say about the 5.1 is, like, it seemed like there might have been in certain scenes or whatever background almost hum, because I paused it and it went away, and I pressed play and it was back. Later on it did the same thing, and I paused it and the humming was still going. So I don't know if that was my head or what the hell that was, but there might be instances where, like in the 5.1, if you're listening to this with actual some bass and stuff, there might be in quieter scenes, there might be every now and then or whatever a very faint background, like, just, I don't know if I want to call it a hum per se, but just like a whatever, noticeable something just in the background. Maybe not all the way through. It's hard to say, but like I say, if you watch my review of, I don't know, I talked about Virus in the DVD, you know, DTS DVD and stuff, but yeah, it seemed like in the early years of discrete audio and digital discrete audio surround, they really took advantage of, like, just, you know, rear, left, right, center. Like the very beginning of the movie, the first thing you hear in the rear is like thunder, you know, right in the rear there, you know, and it's just really cool. And even just like when the orchestra is playing, just what the sound guy does with the sound, like, so, you know, like, you know, when the ship blows up at the end, it's just like do 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 do, and then it's like the music's kind of a part of the surround experience, and they're under the bridge, and he's like, Susie Amos is playing, I gotta go save her. And it's like the music's still a part of the surround experience, and then it cuts to that really far shot of, like, the dusk, and then the audience in the little, whatever that's called, little amphitheater thing, and the soundtrack goes from, you know, the thing that the orchestra in the movie is playing, goes from, like, all of the surround to just, like, right over there, small, because it's a distant shot of the orchestra. And then the next shot is like the people watching, waving the flags and that of the audience, and then, like, the orchestra is right on the, you know, the right side. So it's like it just seems to me, and I talked about this in my Virus DTS DVD video, and it seems to me like the early days of the discrete digital surround, like, they really took full advantage of it, more so than they may do take advantage of it today. Like, maybe these days they're just so used to it, they're lazy, or it doesn't occur to them what to do with it or whatever, but they really took advantage of it in the early days of it, so that was really fun. But yeah, I mean, all around stellar presentation. I'd say possibly, you know, the video presentation might be better than the 5.1 presentation because of that possible background noise, whatever I may or may not have been hearing. Maybe it was my system, maybe it was my brain or my ass, who knows what the hell it was. But I can't stress enough, this is like one of the most stellar video presentations on a Blu-ray that I can remember seeing in a long time. Like, holy crap. Usually, kind of like with Leviathan, you know, Leviathan Blu-ray didn't look ridiculously different than the DVD I got. But this is just like so much of an improvement over the DVD, I cannot even believe it, you know. So hats off to Kino for putting this version out, and I'm glad I didn't freaking pay through the nose or whatever to get the Blu-ray, the out-of-print Blu-ray before this came out, because not only did I get to save money, but I got to get presumably the better Blu-ray version, so yay me. Not that I really care one way or another, but I was able to get a slipcover with my Blu-ray release of Blown Away. Under the slipcover it looks like this. Who would have thought? If you've seen me talk about Kino Lorber discs, you know I'm not a huge fan of the cover art, or the disc art rather, but it's a stellar Blu-ray release, so I'm not going to waste too much time complaining. Guess that about does it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, we'll catch you on the next video.